Good morning, Julia. How are you? It's President Angeleo. Well, some people do have trouble pronouncing my name still. Well, there is an interesting story about my name, and maybe we'll leave that for another time. But I think Angeleo is just fine. How are you, dear? Good. Well, there's something going on tomorrow, Julia, that you have on my schedule that I'd like to talk to you about. And it's about the whole presentation of my vision of something extremely exciting. Tax. I'm joking, of course. Don't drop the phone on me. Probably the most boring subject in the world, but my goal is to make it dynamic and exciting, essentially by getting rid of most tax as we know it. Right. That's sort of a scam. I think people are starting to get it. And we have a really orchestrated way of really eliminating tax on individuals and companies and making our country extremely wealthy without that burden. So anyway, Julia, I want to give you kind of the heads up because I'm going to be creating just a little crib sheet before I get up. And as you know, I don't use a teleprompter. I like to speak extemporaneously, but I at least want to kind of caucus with you tomorrow beforehand because your suggestions are so great. And you have a very critical eye. And just tell me the truth. If you feel like I'm stressing one point too much over the other, just give it to me straight because you're a great coach. So here's the deal. First off, I believe heart and soul that capital gains tax is a huge ripoff. And the reason why is because I call it a double hot tax. And just follow my thinking. A person works hard and they work at a job and they pay tax through payroll. And at the end of the year, they may even still have to pay a little bit more on April 15th. And as they go about their business each day, buying gasoline and using electricity and buying their retail goods, they're paying more tax. And then they manage to save just enough money to launch the American dream, to start their own small business. And lo and behold, as soon as they become profitable, they're looking at another tax. And then they're able to just sort of eke out a little savings that they put into a stock, for example, and they make some money, and now they pay something called capital gains. So it's just this duplication of taxes, one upon the other, that just saps our economy of its organic strength, for lack of a better phrasing. So here's the idea. The naysayers are going to come back to me and immediately say, oh my goodness, Michael, how in the world can you possibly deprive us of capital gains tax? Well, here's my vision. First off, I really want to bring the country out of tax as we know it. And everything's going to be pushed to the end user. So essentially, Julia, in about 18 months to 2 years, I'd really like to see the United States only taxing its people at the end use through consumption and through user fees. And of course, we have our tariffs. Now, let's think where we are right now through our great advents in space and bringing down good, clean energy through space and our real ramping up of really the small business, what we can call middle class incentives. We've really managed to create a robust economy. So this is the perfect time to wash away these legacies known as income tax and capital gains tax. So end use. You use a product, you use a service, you partake of gasoline and groceries, all good. In some cases, there will be a tax levied, in other cases, not. If something is absolutely necessary for one's normal walk of life, of course, we're not going to tax those. But if it's something more, well, discretionary or certainly on the luxury side, those are fair game. for tax. Again, consumption and use. Now, as far as the annual filing with the government, I want to look at a flat tax right away. And this flat tax is not going to be a whole lot. It's going to be a very simple postcard, very simplified way of filing tax. So there won't be any more deductions anymore. There won't be any sort of squirrely attempts to avoid paying your fair share. It's going to be a very simplified flat tax. And even that's temporary, because I'll tell you where I'm really going with this, Julia, and this is where the whole vision is really quite exciting. This has been my core philosophy since being president, actually for my whole life. There is no one who wants to be poor. We all agree. But not everyone can be a multi-billionaire, okay? But everyone can start a small business. And that's been proven. In fact, I know a gentleman in a wheelchair who makes biscuits and cookies in his kitchen. He's done phenomenally well. Anyone can start a small business. And I've always believed that really the strength of our country is that small business owner. So I really want to push all the incentives into that nucleus of creating a country of very prosperous, independent small business owners. So everything that I do in terms of remedying this tax issue is going to be in incentivizing wealth toward the favoring of that, precisely the small business owner. And that's really the bedrock of our country. And of course, it has been so since the beginning of our country. Do you know where the term... Right, I'm always very interested in helping women in small business. And that old term spinster, we always thought of the spinster as that sort of elderly lady who was not married, but the spinsters were actually the weavers of fibers, of textiles in the early days of our country. And the women dominated that industry. They were very involved in working in the textile industry. So from that grew out the word spinster. But the point is, whether we're talking about our women or our young men, or frankly anyone at any age, the impetus should always be towards the great independence and the American dream vested in the ownership of one's own small business. Now, built into this idea of incentivizing small business by getting this tax burden off of our country will be something else quite interesting. To the degree that a small business is in operation and they're hiring employees, let's say 5 to 70 or 75 each year on that flat tax, they're going to be paying less. And after 2 or 3 years, they'll pay no tax. So where does all that extra wealth go? Am I robbing the country of wealth? Because remember, what we're talking about is a compact between consumers, savers, and investors. And that's always what a capitalist economy is all about. So is President Angeleo going to put a dent in that relationship? The opposite. The opposite. Because what I'm looking to do in starting with a flat tax and slowly bringing it down, and again, for these folks who own small businesses, their ability to hold on to employees and to establish themselves, and that's a great incentive. After about 3 years, they'll pay no tax. So the monies that they would normally pay in tax, they're going to put into something I call a fund basket. The fund baskets are a huge part of my administration, and they're really, really cool because there are two choices, either an individual, a small business, or even to that extent, large corporations that offer the old, sort of the For 401k plans, they can also move in this direction. But the idea is those monies will be used now to invest in America. And those monies will come back to you, because one of the programs I'm going to create as a fund basket will actually be much like the IRA accounts of today. So now all this extra money that you have, because you're not paying any more tax, you've established your small business for 3 years, you've maintained 5 to 75 employees, you're taking off the tax rolls. Well, now we're going to be asking you to put money into these fund baskets. And of course you don't have to, but it will behoove you to do so, because type A will be a sort of an IRA setup, where the funds that you put into this account can be used towards your retirement. And you'll even have incentives to use portions of the capital gains, which will no longer be taxed, to, in a targeted fashion, to put them into industries that are essential for the growth and modernity of our country, such as our electrical grid, which we really replaced, but we're still improving, our work in space, healthcare, and actually funding some of these programs that we're doing through the White House, correct, such as civic education. And really, really, the one that I love so much is the push toward educating Americans on how they can become healthy without having to pour their life savings into doctors and medical plans, which, by the way, we've also made very, very efficient through competition. Okay, so let me summarize, because I think I've kind of spun a pretty elaborate web here, Julia. Am I talking too much? You know President Angeleo, and I get very excited when I start talking about my plans. Well, just to summarize, the idea is to wean the United States off of this idea of taxing its citizenry, correct, and to move us more toward consumption and end-use fees. And those will be really placed more upon non-essential goods and services, not things that are required for one's existence, healthcare or pharmaceutical things of that nature. But in your normal walk of life, where you exercise a degree of discretion, and I think it's fair, you'll pay a tax as an end user. Okay? On the front end, you'll now only be paying tax at a flat rate, as will the corporations. Corporations will be in an interesting position, because as they move to this flat rate, I'll also give them the opportunity to pay their annual tax on a rotational basis. Meaning, we may even rotate the industries so that your industry, let's say it's agra or pharmaceutical or retail, it may only be every 4 years that you're subject to a tax. So we're going to put it on a rotation, or as a corporation, you could actually choose the most fruitful quarter of your year to pay your tax. So it's all to the advantage of those industries. They feel a very, very light burden, and they have a sort of a degree of choice in certainly when they pay their tax. So they're going to be pretty happy campers. Now, getting back to the individuals, goodbye to the itemization. My goodness, the accountants are going to hate me, but I have an idea for them too. We'll talk about another time. So now, this new system will involve a very simplified flat tax. And the purpose of this is to give our American people more savings so that they can do what many want to do. Remember the adage, not everyone can be a billionaire, but no one wants to be poor, but everyone can start a small business. So they'll have the money to do it, essentially the capital to start small businesses. And to the extent that they hold these businesses successfully, and that's right, and they keep employees, and there may even be incentives to help those employees through a multiplier effect start their own businesses. To that extent, they're going to be drawn down over a period of 3 years to a zero tax bill. Now, the final stroke, with that extra money they have, they'll now be able to really help the country and help themselves by putting those funds into a fund basket. And those fund baskets are really, really neat because we as the government will do the hard work of targeting those industries that really need help to make us a greater, more noble country. One example of that would be educating our citizens in self-care, in nutrition, in fitness and health. Other areas that we'll target will be, for example, continuing to find solutions for clean energy and space, and of course our further modernization of the electric grid, and some other things as well. Some of them may also involve national security, but I think with our space shield we've now really pretty much taken care of that. Okay, so so taxes are going to be in the rear view mirror, certainly in the way that we've always known them. Julia, there's one other thing I want to run by you. I really would like to put out the emblem, right, from my book, Emblem America, now make it available for citizens to wear on their clothing. So if you can take a look at my book, Emblem America, you'll see the emblem that we're all aware of, which has the crest and, correct, the motto, faith, nobility, and Christ's destiny. And as we speak right now, I'm actually wearing my presidential field jacket because there's a place that I'm saving to begin wearing the Emblem America logo as well on my own coat. So I'll be a walking advertisement for Emblem America. You have a final question? Yes, that is 100% correct. The royalties from that book are donated 100% whole cloth to St. Jude Research Hospital for the treatment and research regarding cancer for our children. And that will always be the case. It's my great honor to give those royalties to St. Jude. Julia, I want you to have the most amazing day of your life. I look forward to the presentation, and beforehand, we'll look at my notes and you can pepper me with a few questions and really get me ready for that presentation. Well, the weather is rainy. It's rainy, but rainy in a very beautiful way. That sort of dappled sunlight combined with that lovely sound and the mist amongst the trees up here. And I feel very, very blessed indeed. So God bless you. Thank you for your time. And I look forward to our next meetup. Bye for now.